He says, in New York, there's so many different snacking options and bodegas. I think that night I was in Ridgewood. I'd hope so. The woman I was seeing at the time lived there, and I was cat sitting for her. I got a hankering for something, and I couldn't stop wandering around looking for it. I don't remember if I ever found it or not. I find myself in that situation quite a bit.
Hello, everybody out there in the YouTube sphere. Welcome back to a very special episode of the audio. Well, it's not really that special. It's special in that it's the 800th episode, but it's going to run and operate the same as all the 799 that preceded it for the most part. But yes, we've reached the 800 milestone here at the Audiophiles. I can't believe we've made it this far, John. Look how far we've come, buddy.
Yeah, I was digging in some research about, like for anniversaries, you have certain markers or
Yeah.
precious metals or whatever. So 25 for silver. It doesn't go up to 800th wedding anniversary.
No, that's
No, I mean the most I could see, I think 80th wedding anniversary was the port stockings, and 90th was catheters. Um, but I had a look, and apparently the symbol for 800th anniversary is the tambourine.
Oh, nice, nice. John on the tambourine on this number, ladies and gentlemen. That's great. I'm glad that we made it to 800 episodes. I highly doubt we'll make it to 800 years, but let's keep pressing on and see where we go from here. John, you've got a track to offer me up today. What'll it be, and who is it by?
So it is Parquet Courts.
Oh, this is the
Now,
I fell in love with Parquet Courts and their one album. I know they've got plenty more than that over on Into the Music
Greg
when
gave you a
yeah,
show, didn't he?
Greg gave me tenderness. So the album is it Stay Wide Awake? Is that what it is? Yes. Love that album. Shame on me for not like going beyond it. But got caught up in other stuff. I'm
Yeah.
really glad that you're gonna I hopefully it's not something off the same album and you're gonna be introducing me to something off a different one of their many albums. Is that the case?
And this part two. No. No, this is, and again, shame on me because for some reason I haven't thought about it until recently that I should give you some more Parquet Courts. So yeah, this is a track called Stoned and Starving. Really cryptic. You'll never guess what this is about. But I'll save that for later.
I,
And
I
this
also imagine it's
is,
gonna be really hard for me to relate to given the subject
yeah,
matter.
exactly. But this is also a live performance on KEXP. Yeah, so you get to see them in all their glory as well.
All right. Well, cool. KEXP, Parquet Courts. I'm thrilled. Let me go check it out and I will let you know my thoughts.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, that bike shot. Yeah.
I was walking through Ridgewood, Queens.
It's funny you said I was walking because I was getting this feeling of like just the way that this took shape instantly, pretty much. I mean, you get one rep of the guitar and then everyone kind of joins in from there. And it has the main riff has this feeling of like one that it could last forever, or that like through repetition and minor tweaks in between, they could let this ride for quite some time. It just has that sound that they could milk and really stretch and make and just ride it out. I love songs like that have riffs that are that or chord progressions that are that strong they can hold up on their own for an extended period of time as they inject little bits of variance here and there to kind of keep things fresh. Silver Sun Pickups comes to mind. They can do that. They can just rock out with a motif for a while. Spoon does that as well, and add little bits and pieces that just keep the whole thing fresh and it doesn't wear thin. And then because of that sound, I was thinking of sort of this like vast open road, and like, you know, almost like a road trip kind of song. And then the first thing he says is, "I was walking," and I'm like, well, that's can't do that in a car. But regardless, it's got that feeling of expanse to it. I suppose you can have that when you're on a stroll as well, right? Depending on where you are. So either way, I'm really loving this sound that they've cultivated in just these opening 20 odd seconds.
I was flipping through magazines, I was so sorry. I was reading ingredients, asking myself, should I eat this? I was so sorry.
Walking around stoned, reading ingredients, just torturing yourself, buddy.
I was eating Swedish fish, roasted peanuts all in the dish. I was so sorry. I was walking through Ridgewood, Queens. I was flipping through magazines. I was so sorry.
That bass. I love how this Telecaster is doing all this kind of weird, slightly discordant stuff while that Strat is just chopping away at these like kind of bright, jangly chords, and how it's all working together. And God, that bass is fucking killing it. I shouldn't leave the drummer out because they're kind of setting the whole tempo for everything, but that bass and drummer are working like hand in hand. And god damn, this all sounds so good. See, I love that now the Strat has taken kind of like the lead role, if you will, and you could just hear the tone difference between those two Fender guitars. You really can, and I love that switch. It's it's subtle, but it's there, and I just love that shift in tonality. As now, the guy on the telly is just jamming that headstock toward the amp to, I'm sure, garner as much feedback as possible. And this all sounds so fucking, just wondrously chaotic. It all works, despite this frenetic, manic nature. Listen to that. The drummer just switched up, talking about subtlety again. Like the motif on the drums switched up to now I think we're hearing a little bit more like hi-hat centric beat, where everything's kind of centered around that, or that's used as the accent beat on the overall drum motif. I really like the way that sounded. Very subtle, but I caught it instantly, so that has to mean something, right? Yeah, that was awesome. And it did just what I hoped it would do and thought it would do, which is kind of like just expand on this jam, just continue to do stuff with it. Everybody, like the drummer was switching up stuff here and there, subtle changes just to keep things fresh, and all of this goddamn frenetic energy, like molecules just ricocheting and bouncing off of each other, were those notes and strikes of the drums, and all of that flying around on the bass. It just sounded so goddamn good. Yeah, I could jam out to that for a while. Just like they did. I thought the bass player was having full-on convulsions there towards the end, but I can't say that I blame him. Yeah, this is fabulous, man. Only enhanced that much more by this kind of live performance aspect of it that KEXP is so great at capturing. Yeah, I really adored this one, man. This is a hell of a tune. I've really only listened to that one album by these guys, and I know that they've got plenty. So like, shame on me for not digging into some of their other stuff. But every time I listen to these guys, I'm really impressed with their sound and their approach in general. And they can kind of wear different hats musically too. I've come to find, which is another talent that they possess. So yeah, I adored this. This is one hell of a jam. It's not really much for me to split hairs about here. Those two guitars were fucking fantastic. The bass was even better. The drums held it all together. Just good shit. So, all right. Let me gather myself and get back to John so we can chop this one up a bit more.
Right turn, Clyde. So he's back. You've had a listen and a watch of Stone and Starving live on KEXP. Other letters are available. By Parquet Courts. So tell all the good folks and myself what you thought of it.
Oh man, this is a lot of fun. I can't really deny it. This is another great listen and experience checking out Parquet Courts. And the video begins, and not only is it a KEXP joint, but we are in everyone's favorite bike shop stroke indie rock music venue, Mellow Johnny's Bike Shop, which we have seen a few performances of. I think I gave Greg a track by the Joy Formidable that was shot in the same spot, and
Yes.
You checked out the Head and the Heart. I think their performance of, was it Rivers and Roads, was from this location as well. They've shot here before. I think this is in Texas by South, like close to where they do South by Southwest, and that's where they shoot when they're down there rather than in the Pacific Northwest, if I'm not mistaken. I could be. But either way, it was fun to see all these hipsters in the crowd and all of these bicycles hanging about in this spot. It's such an interesting place to hold something like this. So a lot of fun. The crowd politely gives the fellows some applause, and we are off to the races with one repetition of this motif by the guitar before everyone quickly joins the mix. And instantly, this song has this lovely progression to it, and like for whatever reason, I can immediately tell that it lends itself to repetition. Now, I don't know what it is about a song that can make you identify that, but this song, like a lot of the stuff by Spoon, like a lot of stuff by Silver Sun Pickups, they create this foundational riff or chord progression, and then they tinker with it through most of, if not all of the track. And I knew within the first few seconds that this is what this was going to be, and it was. So it was a lot of fun to identify that it had that quality, and then to see it unfold in the way that I imagined in my mind's eye pretty quick out of the gate. And then I got this really funny feeling that was almost immediately contradicted, though I suppose you can kind of make sense of it, of I had this feeling of being on the open road, or this just being a nice travel song, watching everything go by and just listening to it and feeling time pass. And then he immediately says he's out walking. So I'm like, okay, so we're not behind the wheel of the car in the passenger seat, but nonetheless,
Slow down.
Yeah.
Slow down.
The same sentiment can be posited when you're strolling about as well, though, I suppose. So nonetheless, it still made sense and conveyed the same sort of feeling. So this is Andrew Savage, right? One of the two Savage brothers that's in this band. Yeah. So he begins singing, and he's talking about walking, as I mentioned, through Ridgewood, Queens. He's flipping through magazines while also being, as the title would suggest, stoned and starving. We've all been there. At least I know I have. He then rattles off another few lines in which he describes reading ingredients, which is like, come on, man, why are you torturing yourself? You've got a whole ass magazine, and the first thing you're going to dive into is the recipe area when you're starving and stoned out of your gourd. Find other reading, my friend. But that just made me laugh because, of course, that's what he stumbled upon. So he talks about like contemplating what to drink before again repeating that opening stanza. After this, the Telecaster that he's I'm pretty sure he's on the Telecaster and the other guy's on the Strat. But the Telecaster regales us with some awesome bit of sonic manipulation while the bass just rolls like thunder underneath. And the bass of this fucking song was just fabulous, man. So much pace to his sort of picking style. That up down picking motif that he's doing through all of it, which keeps the notes just coming. So it was great. I loved the sound of it. I really appreciate how they let this portion breathe and didn't rush it. This is exactly what I expected when I heard the song right out of the gate. And its sound lent itself to this repetition and open space. I'm pleased to hear that the fellows aren't rushing these sort of musical interludes or motifs and are just toying with the sounds therein. We get a couple more of these stream of consciousness lines that depict what the narrator is doing in that moment. More canvassing of streets of the streets of Ridgewood, contemplating whether or not to snack on Swedish fish, peanuts, or licorice. I would go with Swedish fish in this situation. Whilst holding a wadded up cash, or he says bills, I'm assuming just some wadded up pocket money or whatever, and reading about the dangers of smoking. It's kind of what got him here to begin with when you think about it. All while suffering the effects of being stoned and starving. After this comes more of just fucking amazing jamming on the original motif where the guitars constantly inject different brush strokes of slight dissonance, frenetic strum patterns, whining strings, all while the bass remains fucking relentless in its thick but rolling motif, all held together nicely by that drum work. And the guitars like take turns alternating between sort of the conventional rhythm and lead portions, though this isn't your traditional, lead that we're getting. It's just more of this oddball showing out on the respective guitars at any given moment. But I have to say that the rhythm work by the Strat while Andrew Savage is doing it, I love the choppy, jangly sound of that guitar as the Telly's doing weird, wonky shit. I know they really want you to fixate on what the Telecaster's doing, and it's awesome, and you should. But if you're able to strike a balance at any point, just really appreciate what's happening on that Strat because it sounds lovely underneath all of the manic, frenetic stuff that's happening on the Telecaster. So Savage like starts leaning into his amp, kind of like headstock first, like he's holding someone up with a shotgun. And he's shaking then he goes from that sort of shotgun pose to shaking his guitar like someone dropped a pick in the sound hole of an acoustic. When you drop a pick behind there and you're trying to get that fucker out. That's kind of how he's shaking his telly at the amp. All of it's fun to watch and it sounds great. So I'm really digging that. Eventually, the Telecaster takes back the lead role and begins this interesting single note stutter pattern that had more than just a touch of that jangle. It was interesting. It had jangliness to it. It had garage nature to it. And it also had just a hint of what I thought sounded like something born of surf rock to that motif as well, which I love. I love all of those sort of very close but separate subgenres of rock and roll. So loved all that sound. I suppose it's around the 527 mark that even the drummer inherits this touch of subtle variance in his approach, where he then starts injecting these clasped hi-hat sounds into his routine, was nothing earth-shattering, but I noticed it instantly. And that's got to count for something, right? I know it was very minor, where he's probably like snare tom, snare hi-hat, but you hear it immediately, and it just echoes what everyone else in the band has been doing to this point, and this point as well, which is just kind of like moving things a little bit. The room is all there, but you're just moving things around a little bit. Let me take the lamp from here and put it here. The chair is facing this angle. Let me move it 30 degrees. It's all slight, but you notice it, and it just makes it, I suppose, that much more enjoyable. You know, if you're a big fan of Where's Wally or Where's Waldo, depending on which side of the pond you're on, this is the song for you, because it's just the little things that they're doing. And you got to find it and seek it out. But when you see it, or hear it, in this case, it sounds great. The band really is unrelenting in its jamming out during this portion. And at one point, I think the bassist is going into fucking convulsions. There's a lot of this going on. And at one point, the man on the telly returns to this like feedback seeking ways, shaking his instrument of choice in the face of his amp, like one might scold a puppy who's chewed up his favorite sneaker. It's like he's shaking it at, like, no, you don't do this. And I just thought that was funny. And now you can begin to feel things are kind of like about to come to a close shortly, as the drummer again switches up his motif, focusing more on this pounding. And whenever it starts to pound, you know it's like building to this sort of like climax or whatever. So he does that. It all ends in this haze of exhausted musicians, thunderous applause, and this sonic bit of feedback winding away into the ether. Roll credits. This was one hell of a performance by a band that every time I listen to, I appreciate more and more. So yeah, I really loved this thing. It checked all the boxes that I love in like guitar based music in this one performance. So yeah, a lot of fun listening to this, a lot of fun watching it. But please tell me more about this song and the album on which this features.
Yes. I was thinking about getting some more Parquet courts, and when I saw this performance, I was like, yeah, that's the kiddie. So the band themselves were formed in New York City, which is in America, in 2010. They're known as indie rock, post-punk, art punk, and garage punk. And I think they ticked all four of those boxes in this performance. So, as you rightly said, Andrew Savage, lead and backing vocals, lead guitar, sometimes keyboards. Austin Brown, lead and backing vocals, rhythm guitar, sometimes keyboards as well. Sean Yaton, bass guitar, backing and occasional lead vocals. And Max Savage, drums, percussion, backing vocals. They do rotate the lead singers, not a huge amount, but it's not all just Andrew Savage.
Right.
In any album, there's at least 2 or 3 other tracks which aren't him, which is interesting as well. So Andrew Savage and Austin Brown met in Denton, Texas, while both were students at the University of North Texas. They met in a student club named Knights of the Round Turntable, where they listened to and shared records. Andrew had a number of musical projects during college, including Teenage Cool Kids and Fergus and Geronimo. Andrew and brother Max, the drummer, they were both born and raised in Denton, actually, so they didn't move far for college. The 3 of the guys got together, they relocated to Brooklyn after college, and then soon started Parquet Courts. So the band released their debut album, American Specialities, as an independent, limited cassette-only release in 2011. The album was later released with Rough Trade Records in 2021. Their second studio album, Light Up Gold, was released in 2012 to critical acclaim. It received a Metacritic score of 84. So AllMusic said, musically, Parquet Courts draws on some influences not commonly paired, but to great effect. Motoric indie rockers like Borrowed Time and Stone and Starving call to mind the wandering rock of the Feelies, or the inward-looking side of the first phase of the Modern Lovers. While the shadow of 90s staple artists like Pavement and Sonic Youth colours the entire album. Mm-hmm. All of these disparate influences don't show up in a way that feels jarring or derivative, which is perhaps the great strength of Light Up Gold. The album manages to sound like it's learning from its influences rather than stealing directly. Much like Pavement's Two States managed to blatantly ape The Fall, I think we've spoken about this before,
Yeah.
and somehow still get a pass on its own merits, Careers in Combat apes Pavement, aping The Falls in the most original way possible, and sounds great in the process. The album is sometimes languid, often jittery and beaming, but mostly an almost subconsciously storytelling collection of moments that would be boring and forgettable if they weren't captured in songs so accidentally perfect. An enemy said, Light Up Gold is one of the best debut albums you'll hear all year. Its makers, for New York via Texas college dropouts, just know. They know that the essence of great rock music lies in the attitude you apply to your songs when writing them and the venom you coax out when recording them. It's there again in the glorious two-chord howl that is Stoned and Starving, a thrilling update of Jonathan Richman and the Modern Lovers' Roadrunner, set in the 7-Eleven stores of Ridgewood, Queens. The entire record is as premeditated and grounded in US alt-rock history as you can get. It fizzes with the energy and freshness of all those influences mentioned previously, along with everyone from Pavement to early REM to Television, and it offers precisely nothing that could be deemed forward-thinking. That's why it's so goddamn great. I will say, I stumbled across this album when it came out. I don't know why, but I did. And Stone and Starving was the track that hooked me before the others, and they all did. It has this weird sort of collective sound that sort of goes different shades of odd, garagey indie. It's a bit like a more garagey version of Pavement's first album. And honestly, the way it was described to me, it's what I expected to hear when someone talked to me about Husker Du. And I didn't get that. I got this other thing instead, which made me a bit disappointed in Husker Du at the time. And it was kind of what this album sounds like, is what I was expecting in my mind. And so hence I fell in love with this straight away. No shade on Husker Du at all, but that's where I sort of approached it from. There's also elements in this of, again, one of my other favorite bands. There's some Velvet Underground in there as well. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But yeah, the Jonathan Richman and Modern Lovers Pavement link is really solid. And again, they're the bands I love. So yeah, this is a fantastic. I still haven't heard that first album because it's so niche. I know it's been released, but yeah, so I kind of treat this as their debut album. I just think it's fantastic.
This is 2012, is that what
12.
you said?
Yeah.
And then Wide Awake was that 16 or 18? 18, 2018?
Yeah, I think, let me just check with the vaults, but I think it's maybe 18. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a pretty wide berth between those two album releases. So I imagine that there's other stuff in between. It's just really interesting holding up this sound versus the poppy fun nature of Tenderness. I think I may have mentioned this in the reaction. These guys are really good at like switching hats as far as their sound goes. I mean, it's all underneath this rock and roll umbrella or whatever, but they do various different things, and that's impressive and speaks to how talented they are and how good and genuine their approach is to these different sounds.
Yeah, the differentials in sounds on this album are less. Yeah,
Okay.
it's been more of an easily encompassed circle. Wide Awake, they do hop, skip, and jump all over the place.
Yes, yeah,
And they get it right every time, which is the other thing. An album before, an album since, not quite so much, but they really hit it, and that's why it's just such a remarkable album. But yeah, right, lyrics. I was walking through Ridgewood, Queens. I was flipping through magazines. I was so stoned and starving. I was reading ingredients, asking myself, should I eat this? I was so stoned and starving. I was scratching off silver ink. I was deciding what to drink. I was so stoned and starving. I was walking through Ridgewood, Queens. I was flipping through magazines. I was so stoned and starving. And then you got that first solo. But this one and the second one, to me, it really reminded me of Lou Reed's guitar soloing as well. Now there was a I always remember it was on our TV, Channel 4. I would say late 80s. there was a special on Lou Reed playing live, and he did a lot of the old stuff. But apparently he was back. This is about his 8th comeback, because his output in the 80s was pretty terrible, to be honest with you. But they were saying, I remember the commentators saying he's back, he's got a decent new record out, and he's married, and you never guess what? It's to a woman. And one of the other guys said, yeah, it was debatable if he was going to marry someone from this planet, let alone from the opposite sex. Because of his previous stuff, which is again by the by. But he got clean, he got fit, and it's like. But I forgot. I think they did a version. I think it was White Light, White Heat, and he went into this sort of masterclass of feedback riding that was just unbelievable. And he was doing all the shaking and all that sort of stuff, and it was just, you could almost see the sort of the sound wave. It almost took physical form as he was like moving his guitar through the air. It was amazing. And it wasn't quite that, but that kind of reminded me a bit of this as well. And it's really good. You don't see it that much anymore. So yeah, guitar solo. I was walking through Richard Queens. I was flipping through magazines. I was so stoned starving. I was debating Swedish fish roast. I think up until like a few years ago, I wouldn't know what the hell that was. But yeah, roasted peanuts or licorice.
You mean Swedish fish? You guys don't have those there?
They're coming across now, yeah. But when this came out, no way. I was holding some wadded bills. I was reading that Smoking Kills. I was so stoned starving. More jam, as you say. I was walking through Bishop Queens. I was looking through magazines. I was so stoned starving. So the lead singer of Parquet, Andrew Savage, wrote this song after one night's experience. It's as literal as can be. No shit. He says, in New York, there's so many different snacking options and bodegas. I think that night I was in Ridgewood. I'd hope so. The woman I was seeing at the time lived there, and I was cat sitting for her. I got a hankering for something, and I couldn't stop wandering around looking for it. I don't remember if I ever found it or not. I find myself in that situation quite a bit.
Oh, must be something about Andrews.
Yes. So there you go. This is a great album, really good. I think it's just a step below Wide Awake, but in terms of consistent sound and that sort of indie guitar-y, garagey, bit of post-punky sound, it's really, really good. So 2014, the band reached number 55 in the UK album charts with their third studio album, Sunbathing Animal. Later, and the same year, in 2014, they released their fourth studio album, Content Nausea, on which Sean and Max were absent due to other commitments. 2016 saw their fifth album, Human Performance. Andrew Savage actually did the artwork for the album's packaging and art, and he received a Grammy nomination for his work, which is wow for a band of their size. 2018, the band released their sixth album, Wide Awake! Exclamation mark. It was named Album of the Year by Australian radio station Double J.
Yeah.
The band's seventh full-length album, Sympathy for Life, was released in October 2021. And then between February and March 2022, Parquet Courts headlined a North American tour with Modu Mokhtar as their opening act.
Wow.
So that would have been a hell of a night out, wouldn't it?
And I don't think that they're necessarily a natural fit, but fuck me if I wouldn't have had a great time at that show. I don't care if they don't sound exactly the same or cut from the same musical cloth. If you're going to melt my face with Modu Mokhtar and then put it back together with the dulcet tones of Parquet Courts, give it to me.
Yeah, exactly. So I think this is a great performance, as you've already said. Really brings it to life, and just a fantastic time had by all. So yeah, it's worthy song for the 800th episode.
I think so. Excellent choice, man. I had a lot of fun listening to this one. We're pushing it here in this early part of the year. I gotta say, it only makes me fear for what the latter half is going to sound like from a quality standpoint of our output. But we've already got some serious contenders right out of the gate. And from a meeting and recording these episodes standpoint, we're not even fucking out of January yet. So this is, it's a lot. So I'm going to have to take serious stock of, the hierarchy of my favorites here, but you're throwing some good ones my way, man.
Oh, excellent. Right. I should wrap things up, folks out there. Please do hit the like button if you like this, and drop a line and tell us what you think. Tell us of instances where you've been stoned and starving.
Yeah, please.
I
can't be the only one.
I can hardly wait. You know, nothing is more interesting than hearing about other people's experiences on drugs. And this fascinating subject.
You know how much
holds
you love
people's
it.
sway and attention for, you know, crowds, almost, you know, whole theatres full of people will yeah, dote on your every word. So yeah, please do. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. 800 in, and we still haven't got a clue. So come on, we we do appreciate everybody who does jump on board. The water is fine, if a little bit frothy by now. That being said, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see all of you on the next episode of the Audiophiles.
We'll see you later, guys.